Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to review 3 integrated amplifiers, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how they compare, how they're similar. They're all around the same price with similar power, similar features, and all that kind of stuff. Here we have the Denon PMA600NE. It's $400, has 45 watts times 2 at 8 ohms and 70 watts times 2 at 4 ohms. Here we have the Emotiva TA-100. It has 50 watts at 8 ohms times 2 and 90 watts at 4 ohms times 2. And over here's the IotaVX SA3 at $500. This has 45 watts times 2 at 8 ohms and 90 watts times 2 at 4 ohms. I'm going to tell you about similarities. Each one has a remote control. They are a little bit different. Smallest one, full function though. So that's for the Emotiva TA-100, by the way. Here's the IotaVX SA3. It's full featured. It's medium size. This is my favorite. It feels like it's the best in terms of size options, and kind of like it looks a little bit more high-end in my opinion. Lastly, we have the Denon PMA600 remote. It is the largest, and it is not full function, unfortunately. While on these two you can control everything from their remotes, on this one the tone controls are manual. You cannot adjust them from the remote control. Considering it has the largest remote control and you cannot adjust everything from it, did bother me just a little bit. Moving on to like inputs and outputs, they all have digital to analog converters built in, so they can all accept digital signals. The Emotiva can accept, it looks like 1 USB, 1 optical, and is there a coax? Yes, there's 1 coax. Here on the Denon PMA600NE, we have 2 optical, 1 coax, and on the IotaVX SA3, 1 optical, 1 coax. All of them have 4-way binding posts, or sorry, 5-way binding posts, I should say. This one has a detachable C7 power cable. This one has a detachable 3-prong power cable. The Denon PMA600NE is more kind of got that cheapy attached AVR style cable. A little bit of a bummer. It's not super audiophile-y, I guess, but it is what it is. They all have phono preamps built in. The difference is these two have moving magnet phono preamps built in. The Emotiva TA-100 has both moving coil and moving magnet phono preamp built in. The only other difference in terms of their back panel layouts is going to be the Bluetooth, subwoofer, and preamp outputs. So built-in Bluetooth, optional Bluetooth. So it's about 40 bucks to add Bluetooth to either one of these, and there's separate modules that plug into the back. There's a slot for them. This one, it's built in. Pre-outs. This one has a preamp, so you can add a power amp. This one has a pre-out, so you can add a separate power amp. This does not have a pre-out, so you cannot add a separate power amp. Now, this does have a mono subwoofer output, but it's just like one plug. You cannot use it as a pre-out for an amplifier. It is only for a single subwoofer. This unit has pre-outs and dual mono subwoofer outputs, so you can add 2 subwoofers and a power amp at the same time. The IotaVX SA3 has pre-outs, so you can add a power amplifier and a single mono subwoofer subwoofer output. So that is a little bit of a downside on this not having pre-outs. That did bother me a little bit, because with these two, they can stay with you on your upgrade journey. They both have matching power amps that you can add later on down the line if you want more power. Whereas this, you're kind of just stuck with what you've got in terms of power. If you're going to upgrade, you're going to replace the whole unit. That's going to be it for the back panel, it looks like. So moving on to the front panel, there's no screen on this one. This one has a screen. This one has a screen. The screens on these two are dimmable via the remote control or front panel. Build quality. This one is a little bit on the lower side. The front panel felt a little bit plasticky, and it just, I'll show you in a second what I mean overall. The Emotiva TA-100 and IotaVX SA3 build quality seems to be just a little bit higher. There's a nice thick aluminum plate on the front of the Emotiva. It really gives a lot of heft to it. It feels like you're getting your money's worth. The IotaVX SA3, it's not quite as thick, but it does feel very substantial as well. Now I'm going to show you a very non-scientific knock test, kind of like we do on speaker cabinets. That was my nail. It doesn't sound hollow. Look. Very good. Okay, so if you listen to the Emotiva TA-100, it sounds like very thick gauge steel for the chassis. There was not a lot of echoes. The Denon PMA600NE, on the other hand, quite a lot of like vibration, echo, it's not very thin, it flexes a lot. You probably can't see that in the video. The Emotiva is thicker. And then the IotaVX SA3, very damped, not any echoes really. Again, not very scientific, but it just kind of like, there's a feel to it, I guess is the best way I can say it. So Let's see here. Yeah, that's it for the, okay, one last thing, sorry. Iron core transformer on the Denon PMA600NE, toroidal transformers over here, and again, they are similar in power as we've discussed. By the way, if you're here watching this video, I really hope you've watched the individual review videos for each one of these units. Each one of these amps has its own review. I'm gonna leave links below. Please watch it, especially if you're thinking about buying one of these. Okay, so the sound from top to bottom on is how we're going to do it. We're going to start with the top end, and we're going to start with the Denon every time. Then we're going to go to the Emotiva, then the IotaVX SA3, and you're going to understand why in just a second. So, treble. Denon PMA600NE is going to be on the warmer side of neutral by kind of a lot, especially at this entry-level price point. Meaning, the top end is going to be rolled off a little bit. It's not going to be as extended. You're going to have a little bit less detail compared to the other two, and the top frequencies are a little bit on the smoother side. The Emotiva, by contrast, is going to be tilted up a little bit. You're going to get a little bit more detail, micro detail, open sound, better imaging, bigger sound stage, things like that. The IotaVX SA3 is going to be more like the Emotiva, just a little bit better in every category is the best way to say it. You're going to have more air in the top end, a little bit more separation in the top end, a little bit more detail in the top end, and it's going to be a little bit more neutral sounding compared to the Emotiva. Moving on to the mid-range, the Denon, again, is going to be on the warmer side of neutral. The lower mid-range is pretty thick, heavy, and luscious sounding. As it goes to the top of the mid-range where it starts to blend into the higher frequencies, it gets a little bit thinner. It's nowhere as thin as these two that are more on the neutral side. It's still quite thick, just a little bit thinner in comparison to itself. The Emotiva TA-100, on the other hand, is slightly on the cool side of neutral. It's not dry sounding by any means, but it has good detail in the mid-range region and is not what I would describe as warm in any way. It's more neutral, slightly cool. IotaVX SA3, more neutral and transparent in the mid-range. It's a very matter-of-fact amp. It doesn't really color the sound in any way. Its one shining characteristic in the mid-range is going to be its vocal performance. The vocals on the IotaVX SA3 are better than these other two amps by a long shot. The vocals kind of stand out on their own. They project forward into the room in a way that kind of adds a bigger sense of scale to the music and just makes it sound more enjoyable. Let's move on to the bass. Big surprise, again, with the Denon PMA600NE, it's going to be on the warmer side of neutral. It's going to have some more mid-bass bloat than the other two. It's going to sound luscious, thick, full, heavy, and very muscular sounding. None of these amps are slouches in terms of bass quantity or delivery. They all have a good amount of bass, but the Denon, by a long shot, is going to just give you a lot more of it. Now, because we are in the budget category, we have to make compromises, meaning that quantity of bass that this gives you, that warmth and heft that it brings to the table, is going to be at the expense of some things, meaning speed, tonal accuracy, articulation, and distinction between bass notes. Moving on to the Emotiva, if you haven't already noticed, it's pretty much the opposite of this thing. So it's not going to give you as much bass quantity, but it's going to give you that speed, distinction between bass notes, articulation, and tonal accuracy compared to this. And again, the IotaVX SA3 is going to be a lot like the Emotiva, just better in almost every area, especially in bass. It's actually going to have more bass quantity and muscularity than the Emotiva, but it's going to maintain that good speed, tonal accuracy, detail, and distinction between bass notes and articulation. So it's kind of the champion in that category. I'll be honest, from top to bottom, the IotaVX SA3 is the better amp, in my opinion, based on my taste. From my perspective, this is a very you get what you pay for situation. The Denon PMA600NE is the cheapest. It's my least favorite. The Emotiva TA-100 is right in the middle in terms of price, and I like it a lot. The IotaVX SA3 is about $100 more, and it's my favorite. But that doesn't mean that's going to be the same for you, because again, these are voiced very differently. This is a warm sounding amp. If that's what you want, this is going to be the best for you. And the fact that it's $100 less than this one, for example, is just a big fat plus. Good for you, you know what I mean? So if you've got, like, say, some sharper sounding speakers, for example, and you're looking to take the edge off of those, and you wish your speakers had a little bit more bass, this can probably help with that, as long as you like that warmer sound, especially in the mid-range, and as long as you're willing to give up a little bit of top-end detail, soundstage, and imaging. Also, speed in the bass, you'll be giving up as well. You got to give to get the warmth in this price range. There are warm-sounding amps that don't give up speed and detail and resolution, but your budget better come up a lot. You're going to have to spend at least $2,500 plus to start getting into that territory where you're not compromising. The Emotiva TA-100 is going to be more on the neutral side, slightly cool in the mid-range, good bass, just the tiniest bit of mid-bass bloat there. Top end is going to be in the middle of the three in terms of like detail, resolution, openness, and air. The IotaVX SA3 from top to bottom is going to be the most transparent. It's a very matter-of-fact amp. It's going to play your speakers the way they are. So if you love the sound of your speakers, or you're like you don't want there to be any like complications in your chain, you're like, I've watched a million reviews on speakers, like you've totally decided on which speakers you want, you don't want an amp that's really going to color the sound, IotaVX SA3 is going to be your ticket. It's a great amp. I'm trying to think if there's anything I've left out. I've told you about everything, I'm pretty sure. I've had to refilm this bad boy like 8 times because I keep leaving stuff out. I think we did good this time. I think we did good, guys. Ask questions in the comments below. In fairness, I do like all of these. I really do. It's just, I have my taste and I'm sure you have yours. The whole point of this video was to help you make a decision. I already know what I like. Hopefully now you know what you like. And if you're still not sure, I'm going to be really, really simple. Super warm sounding, thick, organic. You're giving up detail for that and speed and precision. Total opposite of what I just said. This is the total opposite of this, okay? Good detail, good speed, good accuracy. If you like the sound of this, this does the same thing but better. So if you're torn between these two, you don't want the warmth, you want the tonal accuracy, you want the detail, you don't know which one to get, I'll make it easy for you. If 400 bucks is your budget, you're getting this one. If 500 bucks is your budget, you're getting this one. It's that simple. You want the warm amp, you're getting this one. Ask your questions in the comments below. I'm gonna jam, I'm starving, I'm gonna go make dinner. Later.